Hey there, welcome to the channel. So today we're going to look into this report that this war in Ukraine could have been over a lot sooner than we thought. Hey there, welcome to the channel. So this is being reported in multiple places, but here I basically found an article on this. So let's look at it. Let's look at what's going on. So here's what the report is. Russia and Ukraine may have agreed to a tentative deal to end the war in April, according to a recent piece in Foreign Affairs. Russian and Ukrainian negotiators appeared to have tentatively agreed in the outlines of a negotiated interim settlement, wrote Fiona Hill. Who is Fiona Hill? Okay, she's connected. She's the former deputy assistant to the president, and so she basically was on the U.S. National Security Council. Okay, so first of all, she's a heavy hitter. She knows about this stuff. Okay, so this is being reported in multiple places. So here's what was the agreement. Russia would withdraw to its position on February 23rd, which is the day before they invaded on February 24th, when it controlled part of the Donbass and all of Crimea. And in exchange, Ukraine would promise not to seek NATO membership and instead receive security guarantees from a number of countries. But then the news highlights the impact of former Prime Minister Boris Johnson's efforts to stop negotiations. Okay, basically what happened there is, if you remember, Boris Johnson ran over there to Kyiv to go meet with Zelensky. And after that, all the talks broke off, all the negotiations stopped, and all that has stopped ever since. Okay. So what we need to understand is that, and this has been reported on before, but it's like finally coming out from like more reputable sources. Okay. Now, what would that have been? So let's go look at the war map. So if you look at the war map here, you can see that up here is basically your Donbass region is down to this, to the right and south. So according to what was stated there, they would have kept Crimea. Russia would have kept Ukraine, and matter of fact, only part of the Donbass, whatever they had before that. And if you remember, there was a line of contact, and so they had part of Luhansk and Donetsk, but not all of it. Like the line of contact was well within that territory, and also note that they didn't have Mariupol, or they didn't have the connection between Luhansk and Crimea. So the agreement, um, basically, from my perspective, would have been a pretty good deal, especially given where you're looking at the map now. Okay, so remember, they invaded on February 24th. This report is talking about April, so only a few months into this. And so, what we have to understand, so what does this highlight? This highlights that the West, aka I'm in the US, so that means us, we are prolonging this war. This is not a war. This is a war of choice. There was an agreement. There was agreement to stop this war. So since April, all the people, which is a lot of people, is probably like adding up to like tens of thousands, maybe 100,000 people have already died. And all these people that have died because of the actions of the West, because we wouldn't allow Kiev to negotiate a deal. Now, how has this worked out? How has this worked out for Kiev? Well, if you go back to the original map, I mean, Russia has taken a lot of territory here. They've taken basically almost the complete Luhansk and Donetsk region. They've taken all this territory that now gives them a land bridge between Crimea and those territories. Matter of fact, and down here, this is where it's really critical right now, down near Mykolaiv and Kherson and all this, because the key part here is that they've already crossed this river, the Dnieper River. And this is a really big issue, because the issue is that, the river is a river is a good border. It's a good dividing line. And the fact that they've crossed it all over the place over here is really a problematic situation. So if you go back to April, if that deal had happened, you'd be in a situation where you basically probably would have stopped most of the fighting. There'd still be skirmishes and other crap going on, but it basically, like, a lot of people would not have had to die. And then in addition, you would have been in a Ukraine would have been in a better position. This is really key here because Ukraine, this Odessa, this region here is really key because um, Ukraine is at the forefront of losing access to the Black Sea. They're going to become landlocked. This is a huge potential problem for them, right? You're a nation, you have a seaport, you have access to the sea. You don't have that. It typically can be really bad for your economy. Like, how are they going to export their grain? What are they going to have to pay to try to export that to, occupied portions of Crimea, Mariupol that's occupied Russia? They're not going to get a good deal on that. Secondly, notice that so this is what's really happened. Now Russia is pushing because this deal is off. They're like, obviously, what would you do if a deal was off? What would you do? You'd be like, well, screw you guys. I'm just going to go and take everything. And that's exactly what's happening here. So now, instead of Ukraine actually in that agreement, Ukraine would have still had Mariupol, right? They would have had Mariupol. They would have lost these. Basically, it would go back to the lines on 2014. In other words, this is really lost on the West. It's like, look, the part of the Donetsk and Luhansk, those regions, Donetsk and Luhansk regions, and Crimea have not been part of Ukraine since 2014. They have not been part of it, right? And so there's been fighting along that line, but they have not been part of Ukraine. Okay. It's just they haven't. So we would have been back to that. And tens of thousands of people would be alive right now if you had taken that deal. Okay. And now, because the West forced Ukraine to not take that deal and gave them a bunch of weapons, which aren't enough weapons to actually counter this. Okay. Now, now Ukraine is probably going to, if this keeps going, they're going to lose Odessa. They're going to lose access to the Black Sea, which is not going to be good for their economy. Russia is going to now link up with this over here, which is called Transnistria, which is an area that they have occupied in Moldova. And they're going to be in a real sticky problem. And other aspect is that because they took this, they're going to seal off the port. And in addition, they lost access to the river. So here, even though Ukraine might still have access to the upper part of the Dnieper, they're not going to be able to ship stuff all the way down, right? All the way out to the Black Sea. So this is now, you went from a situation that was a no-brainer for Ukraine. They lost nothing. Since 2014, they don't need it. They don't in any way need Crimea. They don't need the Donbass. You don't even want the damn thing. You don't want it. Those people over there don't want to be part of you. You don't want them. Why the hell are you fighting to, like, people that don't want to be part of you? Screw them. Screw them. It's like unfreaking believable. And all these people died. And so the problem is Zelensky here, he just bought what the West was selling. And it's really sad. And it's really this terrible situation. And now Ukraine is in a really bad situation. They're going to lose access to the sea. They're going to really they're losing access to the sea, even if Odessa, they're losing access of the Dnieper River into the Black Sea. They've already lost that. They've had tens of thousands of people are dead, all kinds of people that are refugees, all this stuff that's happened. Everyone's losing in this thing. Now, the other thing I want to address is I know there's a bunch of people out there that are like, well, no, you could never make that deal. You can never make that deal with Russia because Putin is a bad guy and he will not keep his word. Well, maybe, right? Maybe. But here's the thing. There's a universal truth in the nature of reality that the easiest thing to do, the easiest thing for humans to do is to create conflict. The easiest things for humans to do are to start wars. That's the easy part. So if Putin didn't hold up to that deal, if he didn't hold up to that deal, then what's the big deal? There's no big deal. It's like, okay, then you start fighting. Then you start pumping $100 billion of weapons into Ukraine and you start duking it out. There's this Beatles song, Give Peace a Chance. And like we have the Democratic Party running our country right now, and they are warmongers at a level that's even worse than the worst of the GW Bush years in the Middle East. It's like they just will not accept trying to negotiate with anyone over anything. And the big picture of it as well is, well, you can't just negotiate with someone that invaded a country. Well, okay, well, we invaded Iraq, right? So the US has no moral standing on that particular item. The second thing is, look, we've put NATO, now we've even added Finland and Sweden, I believe, to NATO. We've just done nothing but encroach on them. And at some point, you keep encroaching on someone, they're going to strike back. So I found that really just horrifying that we're in this situation. This was the rumor, right? This is where you see this reported in kind of gray places where, like, oh, the West really, told Ukraine you can't negotiate, et cetera, with Russia, and that we really want this war to keep going on. But this really confirms it, because this person, Fiona Hill, is connected. It's not by accident. Matter of fact, she's probably going to get spanked for the fact that she actually said out loud what she shouldn't have. So I think that's it for this one. Very, very sad, just disappointing mess for everyone. No one's winning. Talk to you later. Bye.